The factory never slept. Giant machines groaned all day and all night. Sparks flew in the air. Metal arms lifted old robots and dropped them into giant grinders. It was a place for garbage, broken things, and forgotten tech. It was also where unwanted lives were thrown away. Eli worked on level 9 maintenance. He was human, one of the few allowed in this part of the galaxy. No one cared about him. He fixed conveyor belts, oiled metal claws, and cleared blockages. His hands were always dirty, his eyes always tired, but Eli noticed things others didn't. And today, he heard something no one else would have stopped for. It started as a soft sound. He was walking past Grinder Station Delta, where rusted machines were crushed and melted into cubes. The grinder was a monster. Blades like knives, heat coils hot enough to melt bones. Then, a cry. It was weak. Not a machine noise. It sounded like a child. Eli stopped walking. He looked around. Machines screamed and whirred, but the sound came, again. Clearer this time, a soft, broken sob. "What the hell?" Eli whispered, turning back. He moved quickly, climbing the side ladder of the grinder chute. Steam hissed near his face. He pulled open the inspection hatch and looked inside. His heart stopped. There, half buried in scrap metal and broken wires, was a girl, alien, small. Purple-gray skin covered in dust, thin arms, cuts across her face, and wide eyes full of terror. She was breathing. Barely. Eli didn't think. He jumped in. The machine's warning lights blinked red. Auto cycle in 30 seconds. He didn't care. He pulled metal off her chest, unwrapped wires around her leg, and lifted her out. She weighed nothing, just bones and skin. Her eyes blinked slowly, like she couldn't believe what was happening. "You're okay," Eli said, holding her tighter. "I got you." The machine roared behind them. He jumped out of the chute just as the grinder activated. The ground shook, blades spun, fire hissed. 1 second later, she would have been gone. He ran back to his service room, hidden behind old pipes. The girl shivered in his arms. He laid her gently on a blanket, checked for wounds. "She's alive," he whispered. "But for how long?" She tried to sit up, failed. Her lips moved, but no words came. "It's okay," Eli said softly. "You're safe here." The girl looked up at him. Her eyes, big and silver, were full of confusion and fear. Eli searched the factory logs. There it was, Unit 73BX. Species, Varnari, juvenile. Status, rejected. Value, none. She was marked as worthless, sold for 0 credits, labeled as non-repairable waste, and then dumped into the grinder like garbage. Eli sat back in shock. They threw a living child away. He looked at her again. She was barely breathing, but alive. She had long, thin fingers, cracked nails, and cuts that looked days old. She must have been passed through many hands before ending up here. His chest tightened. How could anyone throw her away? He pulled a water pack from his shelf, lifted her head gently, and let a few drops fall on her lips. She drank, slowly, carefully, like it was the first time in days. Outside, a loud alarm rang once. Level 9. Maintenance, inspection protocol activated. Someone was coming, maybe looking for her, maybe just checking systems. Didn't matter. If they found her here, Eli would be arrested or worse. He looked down at the girl. She stared back at him now. Her eyes no longer full of panic, just tired. "All right," he whispered. "I'm not turning you in. You didn't deserve what they did to you." She blinked slowly. "Can you speak?" he asked gently. Her lips moved again. This time a sound came out, barely a whisper. "Sorry." Eli leaned closer. "What?" "My name is Sorry." He nodded. "Nice to meet you, Sorry." He looked at the door, then at her. "I'm gonna hide you, get you better, but you have to trust me." She gave a slow, weak nod. Eli wrapped her in a heat blanket, grabbed tools and old food packs, and prepared to disappear. For the first time in years, he felt something real in his chest. He wasn't just fixing machines anymore. He was saving a life, and sorry wasn't trash. Not to him. The factory sky turned orange. Daylight on this industrial world didn't bring peace. It just meant another shift. More machines. More noise. More things crushed and melted. But in a small maintenance room behind Pipe Sector 9, something was different today. There was life. Eli sat cross-legged beside the small alien girl, Sari. She still hadn't moved much since he pulled her from the grinder chute. Her body was weak, her skin bruised, and her left leg was swollen badly. But her eyes were open now, and she was watching him closely. Eli spoke softly as he worked on a small heater. I used to fix broken vending bots, trash in, snacks out. Now look at me, trying to keep a kid alive. Sari didn't speak, but when he offered her a warmed food cube, she took it with shaking hands. That was progress. Later, Eli checked the logs again, digging deeper into her records. Unit name, Sari 7. Condition, substandard. Origin, Varnari colonies. Sale price, 0.02 credits. Disposal approved. He stared at the word, substandard. What does that even mean? He muttered. He found more. Her species, the Varnari, were known for strength, speed, and strict biology standards. Weakness was not tolerated. Sick children, slow learners, or imperfect growth were removed from society, not sent to school, not offered help, just thrown away, sometimes, literally, like Sari. He looked at her again, a living child, sold for less than a broken toaster. Labeled not worth repair, scheduled for grinding, and yet, she had survived. Barely. Sari's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. Why? Did you pull me out? Eli turned to her, surprised. Because you were alive. No one else would have. He gave a sad smile. Then maybe they're all wrong. She stared at him a long time. You are human? Yeah. My people say, humans are weak. Kindness makes you weak. He chuckled. Maybe they're right, but I'd rather be weak than heartless. She looked down at her hands, thin fingers still shaking. I didn't fight when they sold me, she whispered. I thought maybe they were right. Eli leaned closer. What do you think? Tears filled her silver eyes. I don't know. Suddenly, red lights flashed. Near the hallway, security patrol. Eli rushed to the door, peeking through a crack. 2 tall enforcers were scanning the hallway with glowing visors. One of them held a tracker. A signal pinged, then vanished. They know someone's missing, Eli muttered. He ran back to Sari. We have to move, now. He packed what he could, a toolkit, rations, med patch tape. Then he wrapped Sari in a long brown coat and pulled up his hood. You trust me? He asked. She didn't answer, but she held his hand, and that was enough. They moved through back pipes and old waste tunnels, places even robots avoided. Eli knew these places well. Forgotten shafts, abandoned lift routes, dead power lines. The guts of the factory world. Sari walked slowly. Every step hurt her leg, but she didn't complain. Eli stopped often, letting her rest. He noticed something strange during one of those rests. A broken loader bot sat nearby, completely dead for years. But as Sari leaned near it, it twitched. Just once. Then stopped. Eli stared. Did you see that? Sari nodded slowly. Machines sometimes hear me. What do you mean? She looked down, scared. I don't know. It's always been that way. They said it was wrong. Eli knelt beside her. It's not wrong. It's different. That's not the same thing. She looked at him like no one ever said that to her before. Later that night, they reached an old junk shelter, hidden under a scrap pile. It was dusty, dark, and cold, but safe. Eli wrapped her in blankets and set a small heater. Sari ate slowly, her eyes watching the door. Eli leaned back and whispered, "You're safe. They won't find us here." "I don't understand," she said. "Understand what?" "Why you care." He thought for a long moment, then said quietly, "Because I've felt worthless too." She looked at him. Really looked. Eli smiled gently. "But someone helped me once. Gave me a job when I had nothing. Now, it's my turn." She closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, maybe months. She slept peacefully. Eli stayed awake, watching the door, because tomorrow, someone would come looking, and he'd be ready. The tunnels groaned like old bones. Rust dripped from the ceiling. Pipes hissed steam into the darkness. It was hard to tell day from night in the underlayers of the factory world. Down here, everything forgotten ended up. Just like Sari. Eli led the way through narrow service shafts and broken crawl spaces, his flashlight flickering against rusted walls. Behind him, Sari limped quietly, wrapped in a blanket, eyes wide and alert. They had been hiding for 2 days, sleeping in old vent chambers, eating cold food cubes, listening for boots and scanners in the distance. The factory's security had increased. Twice, Eli had seen drones flying overhead scanning for biosigns. He always covered Sari with an old energy cloak when that happened. It blocked her heat. So far it worked, but for how long? They came to an old service hatch marked Zone 4 Junk Fall. Eli smiled. "All right, this is where the real ghosts live." Sari blinked. "Ghosts?" He nodded. "Old bots. Machines too big or dangerous to melt. They just shut them down and left them here. It's like a graveyard." She hesitated. "Is it safe?" "No," he admitted, grinning. "But safer than being caught." The hatch groaned open. They stepped into a massive underground chamber. Everywhere they looked, silence and steel, giant broken mechs, old war droids, mining suits, and disassembled androids lay in piles, arms outstretched like they were reaching for something before they died. Some of them still blinked weak lights. Some hummed gently in their sleep. The air smelled of oil and old metal. Sari held Eli's hand tightly. "I don't like this place." Eli nodded. "Neither do I. But if we're lucky, no one else likes it either." They found shelter in the husk of an old cargo ship, half buried in scrap. Inside, Eli set up a small power cell and fixed the door to lock from the inside. Sari sat in the corner staring at a broken robot head lying nearby. "I think they were alive once," she said softly. "The bots?" Eli asked. She nodded. "Not like us, but they felt things. I can still hear them." Eli sat beside her. "Hear them how?" "They whisper," she said. "Even now." Eli didn't laugh. He didn't say she was wrong. He just said, "Then maybe they're glad we're here." Later that night, something moved. Sari sat up in the dark, eyes wide. Eli was still asleep. She crawled to the ship's window. Outside, metal shifted. Not just wind, not just pipes. Something was walking through the junk. Heavy steps. Slow. Deliberate. She shook Eli awake. "Something's coming." He sat up fast. "Security?" "I don't think so," she whispered. They peeked through the window. Between the metal mountains, a dark figure walked, tall, wrapped in armor, its face hidden by a helmet. Behind it floated a scanning orb, blinking red. "That's not a guard," Eli said. "That's a collector." Sari's breath caught. "They're real?" He nodded. "Illegal hunters. They buy rare DNA, special organs, even live subjects. They want me." "Yes." The orb beeped louder. It had picked up traces, faint ones, human sweat, alien skin, heat. "They're tracking us," Eli whispered. "We have to move, now." They packed fast, out the back hatch, into the junkyard maze. They ran through narrow paths between rusted limbs and broken hulls, over collapsed loaders, beneath fallen crane arms. Behind them, the orb buzzed louder. The collector moved with robotic calm, never rushing, never stopping. Eli pulled Sari behind a wall of twisted steel. "I need time," he said, catching his breath. "I have an idea." He pulled out a small toolkit and 2 old scanner chips. "What are you doing?" Sari asked. "Buying us a minute." The orb floated around the corner, saw nothing, then blinked red. Movement ahead. It zoomed forward, toward heat and sound, toward a small figure crouched by a wrecked robot. It screamed as it closed in, only to explode in a burst of static. A trap. Eli's voice whispered, "Go now." He grabbed Sari's hand and pulled her through a side shaft. Behind them, the collector stared at the smoke, silently calculating, then turned and followed. 30 minutes later, they reached an old maintenance rail. Eli dropped to his knees. "We made it." Sari nodded. "For now." He looked at her and noticed something strange. Her eyes were glowing again, brighter than before, and the metal beneath her hands was vibrating. "Sari," he whispered. "What's happening?" She didn't know. But deep inside her chest, something was waking up. The metal floor beneath her hand began to hum, soft at first, then stronger. Sari's fingers twitched, and a line of light pulsed beneath her palm, thin and blue, like electricity, crawling through rust. Eli froze. They were inside a maintenance rail tunnel now, far below the factory. It was dark, quiet, and filled with old wires and forgotten machines. But now, the walls were responding to her. "Sari," Eli whispered. "What are you doing?" She pulled her hand back quickly. The glow faded. "I didn't mean to," she said. "It just happened." Eli stepped closer and gently touched the wall where she had placed her hand. The metal was warm. He turned back to her. "This isn't just strange," he said. "This is impossible." Later, inside a small storage alcove, Eli set up his portable scanner. He rarely used it. It was old and half-broken, but it might help answer the questions spinning in his mind. "What is she?" "Hold still," he told Sari. "This won't hurt." She nodded, still nervous. The scanner blinked green, then blue, then made a sharp beep, beep, beep sound. Lines of code flashed across the screen. Symbols Eli had never seen before. "What the hell?" he whispered. "What is it?" Sari asked. Eli turned the screen so she could see. Her blood wasn't normal, not even close. She had something deep inside her DNA, something not listed in any known genetic library. Alien, yes, but not Varnari. It wasn't native to her planet. Or this galaxy. It pulsed with structured signals, almost like code. "This isn't biology," Eli whispered. "This looks like programming." Sari stared at the screen. Quiet. Still. "I always felt it," she said finally. "Since I was little. I'd touch broken toys, and they'd turn on. Doors would open before I touched them. Lights would flicker when I cried." Eli listened closely. "I tried to hide it," she said. "But one day my teachers saw me fix a drone without touching it. The next day my parents were gone, and I was sent to a testing center." She looked down. "They said I was dangerous, I was broken, a threat to the Varnari order." Eli's face darkened. "You weren't broken. You were ahead of them." He sat back, thinking hard. "This isn't just about being different. Someone made you like this, or discovered it in you." "But why?" she asked. "Because your body's more than flesh and bone," he said. "It's holding something ancient, something powerful, maybe even living code." Sari looked afraid now. "Am I a weapon?" Eli shook his head. "No. You were never meant to destroy. You're meant to change things." Outside the tunnel, metal scraped. A soft clicking noise echoed in the dark. Eli shut off the scanner and grabbed his wrench. Stay here, he whispered. He stepped outside. At first, nothing. Then, a drone, small and black, hovered down from a vent above. Its red eye scanned the ground. It was searching. Eli ducked behind a broken pipe, thinking fast. He couldn't let it find her. He grabbed a rusted valve nearby and threw it across the tunnel. Clank! The drone turned fast and zipped toward the sound. Eli ran the other way, leading it down a side passage. Behind him, the light faded. Sari waited. She heard the sound, the click of the drone. Eli's running footsteps. Then silence. She wanted to run, after him. But the walls around her pulsed again, softly, like they were speaking. She reached out without thinking. Her fingers brushed a broken control panel. Suddenly, the entire tunnel lit up. Old lights blinked on. Screens cracked with age flickered. One screen showed a blinking dot. Eli, cornered by the drone in another tunnel. Sari stood up. She didn't understand how she was doing it, but she knew what she had to do. She stepped into the hall and raised her hand. The tunnel lights dimmed. The floor vibrated. Metal around her responded. The old power lines above her head sparked and surged through the walls toward the drone's location. Crack! A burst of energy hit the drone from behind. It crashed to the ground in pieces. Eli looked up, stunned. Sari stood at the far end of the hallway, eyes glowing, hand stretched forward. The machines obeyed her, not as a master, but as part of her. Eli ran to her. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. I think I connected. Eli stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're not just rare, he said. You're living technology. She looked scared. Does that mean I'm not real? Eli shook his head. It means you're more real than anything they could build. But far above them, in orbit around the planet, a ship sat in silence. Its scanners beeped once, faint signal found. A voice growled. She's waking up, alert the Collector Prime. High above the planet, in the cold silence of space, a black ship floated like a shadow. Inside, a voice spoke through static. Confirm the signature. Lock the coordinates. Begin the descent. A giant metal figure stood at the center of the command deck. His face was hidden behind armor, his title Collector Prime. He had only one purpose, to find genetic anomalies like Sari, and either control them or erase them. Back on the planet, in the rusted tunnel system, Sari and Eli moved fast. They had left the scanner room behind. Too risky to stay in one place. Every few minutes, Sari could feel something, like a pulse in her chest, a signal, a quiet alarm. They're coming, she whispered. Eli didn't ask how she knew. He just believed her. They climbed through an abandoned lift shaft, entered a cargo duct, and emerged into a broken section of the outer plate, a place where machines were dumped in the open sky. Wind howled across twisted towers of metal. The ground groaned beneath every step. Sari paused and looked up. For the first time she saw stars, and among them, a flicker of movement. A black ship. No lights, no trails, just watching. Eli followed her gaze. You see it too, don't you? She nodded slowly. They're not here for a capture. They're here for a kill. They moved again, this time into the machine graveyard where giants slept. Crashed loaders, collapsed diggers, and ancient droids taller than buildings lay in silence, their bodies rusted but powerful. Eli led her into the chest of one such bot, an old mining exosuit. He sealed the panel. We'll rest here, he said. At least for a few hours. Sari leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. Her body ached, her head buzzed, but her hands pulsed with low energy. Eli, she said quietly, if I become too dangerous, promise me something. What? Don't let them take me alive. He stared at her, stunned. Don't say that. I'm serious, she said. If they get what's inside me, they'll use it, twist it, maybe even build more like me. I don't want to be their weapon. Eli knelt in front of her. I don't care what they call you, he said. You're not a tool. You're not a glitch. You're sorry. That's all. She looked down, her voice small. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Then don't be, he said. We fight back. They didn't wait long. The collector's ship arrived above the junk field silently. Then, boom. It dropped a seeker pod, which crashed into the metal ground with a roar. From it emerged collector units, cold, silent, armed with scanning drones and shock weapons. One of them stepped forward and touched the ground. The steel beneath his hand glowed red. She is here, he said. She has touched this metal. She has spoken to it. Another whispered, What is your order, Prime? Collector Prime descended last. He didn't speak at all. He just raised one arm. Burn it all. The junkyard exploded into chaos, flames, roared from flamethrowers. Drones swarmed, structures collapsed. Sari and Eli barely escaped through the back hatch of the mech. They ran through fire and noise, Sari shielding them with waves of energy that rippled from her skin. But her strength was fading. She couldn't hold it forever. They reached the base of an old tower, half fallen and sharp like broken bone. Eli helped her climb. I can't keep running, she gasped. Eli looked around, nowhere else to go, unless... He looked up. The tower, he said. It was once a signal post. Maybe I can boost a long-range transmission. To who? Sari asked. To anyone who's listening, he said. Human, alien, I don't care. Someone out there has to care. While Eli climbed higher to activate the antenna, Sari stood at the base of the tower. She faced the collector units as they advanced. Her body swayed. Her fingers sparked. Her eyes glowed like twin stars. And the metal around her began to rise. Scrap. Pieces lifted from the ground, hovering. Machines cracked open and moved. The entire junk field began to breathe. Collector Prime stepped forward. You are not alive, he said. You are code, a mistake. Sari raised her hand. I am not your code, she said. I'm my own voice. The machines behind her roared to life and rushed forward. At the top of the broken tower, Eli fought against the wind. The old metal platform swayed with every gust. Below him, fires raged through the junk field. He could see Sari, a small figure glowing bright, standing alone between the collector soldiers and a rising wave of awakened machines. She was holding the line. He just needed to buy her time. Eli reached the rusted control box and tore it open. Wires spilled out like vines. He pulled out his toolkit, hands shaking. There was no guidebook, no map, just instinct and desperation. He linked his comm transmitter to the old satellite dish. It sparked, then flickered, then hummed. He grabbed the mic and pressed the button. Mayday. Mayday. This is human Eli Grayson on Scrap World 9. We need help. His voice cracked with urgency. I found a child, a living being. They called her trash. They tried to melt her. But she's alive and she's fighting back, please. If anyone hears this, don't let her be forgotten. He paused, voice shaking. She's worth saving. Down below, Sari stood in silence as the collectors advanced. They were many. She was one, but she was not afraid. Not anymore. Behind her, broken machines floated. Some hovered like shields. Others glowed with new life, responding to her presence like lost soldiers hearing their commander's voice again. The scrap was no longer trash. It was hers. Collector Prime stepped forward. You are not meant to be, he said. I am, Sari replied. I'm not a thing to be owned, not a mistake to be corrected. I'm sorry. He raised a plasma rifle. She raised her hand, and the scrap responded. Metal from every direction surged toward her, forming a wall of armor, plates, cables, gears, spinning, whirring, growing. She wasn't hiding behind it. She was inside it. The eye. Collector opened fire. The blast hit the shield but bounced away in a burst of light. From within the armor shell, Sari stepped out, now encased in a glowing exoform built by her own will. The machines didn't just protect her. They became her voice, her arms, her roar. She looked at the soldiers. You were made to destroy, she said. I was made to survive. Up above, Eli's transmission finally reached someone. A voice cracked through the speaker. Message received. Human vessel en route. Hold position. Relief hit him like rain. He looked down, just in time to see Sari step forward. One by one, the collector's soldiers fell, not in blood, but in surrender. Their weapons jammed, their armor froze. The very tech they trusted turned against them, responding to her command. Only one stood tall, Collector Prime. He didn't run, he didn't kneel, simply raised his weapon again. Sari stepped within range. I was thrown away, she said, sold for nothing, told I was worthless. But look around you. She raised both hands, and the ground shook. I am alive. She lowered her voice, and I forgive you, but I will not go with you. The machine surged forward, not to crush, but to disarm. Collector Prime's weapon shattered, his armor peeled back. He stood there, silent, defeated. Sari didn't strike, she didn't destroy, she just turned away, and... For the first time, the Collector didn't chase. He let her go. Later, when the human ship arrived, Eli met Sari at the tower base. She stood barefoot on the steel ground, staring at the stars. Someone answered. Eli said, "We're getting out." She nodded slowly. "But you already gave me what I needed," she said. "What's that?" "A reason to stay standing." Eli smiled. "Then let's get you to a world that treats you like you matter." As the ship rose into the stars, leaving the factory world behind, Sari looked back one last time. The planet of rust, the grinder, the dark tunnels. It was where she was nearly erased, but also where she was reborn. Not as a mistake, but as proof that one life is never truly worthless, if someone is brave enough to see its value. The stars looked different now. From the window of the human rescue ship, Sari watched the galaxy stretch wide, no longer a prison of shadows, but a road with endless doors. She was clean now, dressed in soft clothes. Her wounds had healed. But the biggest change wasn't outside. It was in her heart. For the first time, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. Eli stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes still tired but smiling. "You all right?" he asked. Sari didn't answer at first. She just looked at her reflection in the glass and whispered, "I don't feel broken anymore." Eli leaned on the wall. "That's because you never were." The ship docked at New Terra Station, a hub for refugees, scientists, and explorers from dozens of species. It was a place where no one asked what you used to be, only who you wanted to become. Sari stepped onto solid ground. Everything was clean, bright, calm, and so quiet. No alarms, no screams, no grinding metal, just life. News had already spread. A child, made of machine code and flesh, once marked for destruction, now a living symbol of survival. Some called her dangerous, others called her divine. But most agreed, the galaxy could no longer ignore her. Council of diplomats and scientists asked to meet her. They wanted to know what she was, how she was built, what her mind could do. But Sari didn't speak to them right away. Instead, she made a request, a simple one, a broadcast, one message, to be sent across the stars, for all the forgotten, all the discarded, and especially for those still trapped in places like she had been. The lights dimmed, the camera focused, and Sari, standing in her plain clothes with her silver eyes glowing softly, began to speak. "My name is Sari," she said. "I was once sold for less than scrap metal. I was thrown away by people who feared my difference. They told me I was worthless." She paused. But they were wrong. I lived. I survived. And someone, a human, chose to believe I mattered. I'm not special because I was born different. I'm not a tool or a machine. I'm just someone who wanted to be loved. Her voice trembled slightly. And I know there are more like me out there. Children, creatures, machines, anyone left behind because they didn't fit. She, Looked straight into the lens. If you're hearing this, you're not broken, you're not a mistake, you are still here, and that means you matter. She smiled. And I'll find you. Or maybe, you'll find me. The message went viral, across colonies and war zones, across quiet moons and trading ships. People, human and alien, saw her face and felt something shift. Not just sympathy, not just hope, but awakening, the kind that starts revolutions. Later that night, Eli sat beside her on a quiet bench inside the station's garden dome. Green trees, soft lights, peace. "So what now?" he asked. Sari leaned, her head on his shoulder. "I help others like me. I build something new. A place where no one gets thrown away." He looked at her with pride. "You really believe you can do that?" She nodded. "Because someone believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Above them, stars burned, silently in the sky. Somewhere out there, scrap grinders still turned, children still cried in the dark. But now, one of them had stood up and said, "Enough." Not with a weapon, but with a voice and a heart that once was nearly crushed, now beating stronger than ever.